thank you for being here. And first thing we'll start with was, can you tell me about yourself, what you do, and how you got started in the music industry?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Becky. I'm from Philly. So I grew up in Philadelphia and I just graduated from Temple University in the spring, which is really crazy because it feels like a while ago, but it wasn't. So yeah, I just graduated and you asked like kind of specifically what I do or just kind of.
Yeah. So what do you do and how you got started?
Yeah. So right now what I do, it's kind of a lot of things. And I guess I'm like early on in my journey, but I got to do some cool stuff. Like right now I'm doing, like you mentioned earlier when we chatted, I'm the chief A&R officer at Outer Voice Records. It's a South Asian record label. And I know you had both James and Phil on like a previous call too, which is really nice. So you got to hear more about the kind of what we're doing. But yes, my role is just kind of working with artists, bringing in artists, kind of scouting, but most importantly, like community building is something really important to me. I know to Finesse and everyone there, so it's really cool to have this conversation. And then I started out in engineering and production. I got my start interning in Philly during college, just kind of like all around town, whether it be people like producers and things like that, or I was actually interning at a studio called Milk Boy, which is a well-known studio in the city, known for a lot of, some of the best artists that come to the city there to work. So I was really grateful to have that experience, just like hands-on experience. And, there's not many, like you said, like women or women of color in kind of engineering production roles or get opportunities to do that. So I definitely enjoyed stepping into that really early on. Like, I was like 18, 19. So it was really cool. And then fast forward now, just doing things I really enjoy or just trying to get more knowledge to understand things and like find out what I really enjoy best. But yeah, that's definitely how I got started engineering production. And then like originally I was a musician kind of growing up in high school and school, but that's a little bit of it. I'm guessing, we'll go more into it, but yeah.
Yeah. So did you have any things in your life that you can like pinpoint that you did growing up that ultimately led you to work in the industry?
That's a good question. I'd say like, I learned piano when I was really young and I was like, me and my sister both did it and I stuck with it. Like, I just kept going. I was like, I really enjoy this. I was very a by ear person. I hate playing by the rules. So I was very like, I may have learned how to read and like sight read and all that stuff. But my like kind of excitement for music was just like coming up with concepts or coming up with chord progressions, just like for however I'm feeling. So that was how I got started. And then I got into drums, which kind of changed everything for me. I think I did jazz drumming. It took me a while to get there. It was a whole story. Like I went to a predominantly white school. It was like a Christian school, but I had the opportunity to like take drum lessons, which my parents didn't even know like existed. Like they don't know much about music. And they were like, what do you need to do? I was like, drum lessons. I was really grateful that they helped me get into that. And then like, I was always competing for the seat for drums. There was like a seat in the jazz band. There's like one or two. And then my senior year, I think it was the first time, I'm not saying it was like me that did it, but it was the first time we had 3 seats because I kind of like really pushed them and it was these 2 dudes and I auditioned and they were like, okay, we're just going to add a 3rd person. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I mean, it's a good thing, but it's like you had to split it between everyone. And that's where I learned how to just like work with a big group of people and drummers and jazz band, like really coordinate and help lead the tracks. And then through that, I was researching, I just learned about production. So it's all just kind of like, it all just became this thing because of my passion for music. And then just growing more in love with like overall, like how people work together overall, either in a band or on a song. And I didn't really have much of a background in production. And I'm a crazy researcher. I'm sure like anyone can tell you that. I just like research. If I don't know something, Google, whatever, I'm going to sit there and like try to find it out,
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. I know that jazz music is like so incredibly difficult to play. And as you said that you don't play by the rules, they don't play by the rules either. Constantly like breaking like classical music standards, whatever. And I just think it's awesome that you're a drummer. I love all female drummers because there are so few of them and they're like so powerful. Like I think
I think you remember you said that you play drums or
I
like
play
sort of
a little
That's
bit
awesome.
very badly.
What? Nah, I feel like drums it's similar, like, there's no rules. As long as you kind of stay, I guess, in time or carry. I feel like you're good. I feel like
I'm trying to get back into lessons, definitely though, because I want to feel powerful like that again.
Yeah, it's definitely for me it definitely helped me with my confidence. Just like you have to like carry if you're with other people, you need to kind of like carry either the transitions or the group. So it's definitely empowering when you're just like sitting there. I haven't played on a set in a while or like led a group, but when I was in high school, it definitely helped me feel confident, to do those things. So
beautiful. We love to hear it. So can you explain exactly what an A&R does and who they work with?
Ooh, I feel like you're asking. Well, I like just started the A&R role, and I feel like it's always taboo and people try to describe it. So if anyone in the industry is watching this, or I don't know who will, but just like bear with me. My description is very like to my own what I'm doing. But
just tell me what you do in your position.
Yeah,
like newly coming out of college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy because the A&R role I didn't really know existed. Like a lot of these roles, they just like showed up as I was like learning more. So for me, my knowledge was like limited to engineering and production, and I was in the studio and like interning and things like that. I maybe met some A&Rs and managers. I was like, who are these people? Like they're not necessarily, directly behind the boards, but they have a huge impact on what the sound and like the sonic landscape of like projects are. And I'm not like the most technical, like super technical. I can like figure that out, but I really enjoy like chatting with people and figuring out what concepts they want to put together and who to call to like make it happen. So that I kind of put it together, which A&R is kind of like the person who's like, I like to call it kind of the project manager of like a project, but that's more of like a corporate term, but it's just the person that's able to keep a project going and like help the artist that they're working with, like create the best product. So whether it be like bringing in the best songwriters for this project or coordinating studio time or like, just like collaborating and then like with the artist and seeing what they need. So it's kind of what I do with Jam in Philly right now with Outer Voice. And that's like right now what I'm doing. And then definitely a lot of hats like with Outer Voice being a startup. And then my own journey kind of also producing at the same time. So it's just like a lot of cool overlap. But so that's kind of like a long-winded answer. I think like A&R is very like I know there's like different types. Like I do more of like creative A&R. I think it's more of what I do because I am like a producer. So I like to be like involved in the production process. So yeah, it's fun. I didn't really know that was a role that existed where you don't have to be like super, like you're not like doing one role in a project. You're kind of just like making sure it's coming along and like the product or the song is as best as it can be. So
yeah, definitely. All right. So
you're good.
So what does your daily schedule look like in your position then?
Right now it's pretty nothing crazy, but right now it's really cool. I get to like learn as much as I can, and also definitely helping James and Phil like work on their next project or their next the music they want to work on. So like I think a lot of people have asked like, there's not much music being put out, but I think they're definitely working on it and learning how to craft songs as best they can. And right now I'm like, connecting them with other artists, producers, engineers. So I guess that's like something really important that the artist develops relationships with like people they're working with or like find the right people to work with. That's what I do day to day. For the Outer Voice stuff specifically, like we did actually meet, like, I don't know if the guys mentioned like virtually, like for a while. And like, we just recently started to like meet in person, obviously safely, with the pandemic. But so I usually have calls with the guys or the rest of the team kind of coordinating how we're going to release a project or some content ideas. So it's usually spaced out like different meetings. I might have a few different meetings spread throughout the week. And then kind of like on my own, do some research, see what kind of artists are out there. Cause it is a South Asian record label. So it's like, you have to kind of like narrow down in a way where it's making sure we're getting everyone in the community as much as possible, but also it's for our community. So being really like intentional with who we reach out to.
Yeah. So you're working with James and Philly right now. In the future, do you intend to work with other artists to come onto the record label?
Definitely. Yeah, that's like the goal for me. I like want to, definitely work with more women. I'm really wanting to work with more. So if there's anyone out here, like South Asian or not, people just want to like collaborate and work. Like I really am really passionate about that kind of work because um, being someone who came up and maybe it was the only person she saw in the space, like it's really cool to see someone else that's like trying to do something similar. Like it never has to be accomplished, and like always see someone else who either needs help, wants to collaborate. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm looking forward to doing.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So do you take on any other roles other than A&R right now?
Yeah, I think, well, with the label, I definitely take on different roles. I'm interested in a lot of things. So definitely like things like sync or music supervision is something I've just recently been really excited about, just to learn and help with them too, or with Outer Voice, like bring something to the table that way. Because I guess we are in like that startup phase, so there's a lot of things we could do. Like, we're planning different events or, coordinating things that hopefully will happen next year, which we're excited about. So definitely a lot of just like having my hands in different projects but trying to keep it all, like make sure these things happen. But yeah, there's a good amount of stuff happening on that end. And then at my own, just like getting better at production, learning more about kind of engineering as much as I can, just to kind of sharpen my knowledge on those things, to be able to articulate as well as possible when I'm working with creative, because that's something I'm just like, everyone wants to get better at their craft. So like for me, I'm definitely in a place where it's like, all right, it's what I got to do next, just be really focused. But yeah, those are some of the things I'm working on and trying to like build both my own kind of thing and also keep working with Outer Voice at the same time. So
yeah. So you're also an engineer and producer. Do your plans or Outer Voice plans and your plans have how do I say this? Plan to have any like in-house producers like yourself, or do you just want to collaborate with others outside of the Outer Voice Records, just have them as partnerships, or do you want to have like in-house producers as well?
That's a good question. Yeah, definitely an interest of that. For me, obviously, like being a producer, there's me in that space, but I'm definitely looking for more producers to work with in-house, or just opportunities that we come across that having in-house be really great. Cause kind of going back to having a South Asian American record label, like historically, our community doesn't really have much of a space. I mean, there are so many people that paved the path for us to kind of exist, but a space to kind of create amazing music, be a part of projects that maybe before we didn't even think we'd be able to be a part of. Like recently, even in TV and film, I'm starting to see myself a little bit in some characters, but it's taken a while. So for me, I was really big on like, okay, if TV's having a moment, let's make sure music and different like fashion and like different industries too. So for music, even though I'm kind of younger, but like learning, I want to make sure that there's a space to pave. And I think same for you, like if you have the opportunity to do that, like I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. Just kind of pushing, but.
Oh yeah. And I think it's totally fine being young and trying to push for all these things.
Yeah. So people always tell me that too. I'm always like, I always say I'm young just to preface. So I'm like, I'm not gonna say like a big statement and then everybody's like, what? But you're right. I think it's cool to be young and just like hungry and learning, and just apply the knowledge through whatever work I can do. So
most definitely, yeah. So what's it like being fresh out of college and in this new big role at Outer Voice Records?
It's crazy. I like the story of like how I joined was crazy too, because like I for a while was just kind of confused of what I wanted. During the pandemic, it definitely did shake me. And I'm sure a lot of people, maybe even yourself or like, people in music as well, like either how to pivot or how to kind of like evaluate what they really cared about and what was like a priority. So for me, school was a little bit of a struggle when I was finishing up, because I was just like rushing myself and I was like, I need to do the next thing. I think it was kind of stressful, but also it gave me a chance to reach out to people on social media and things like that. I started to become just somebody who was like, I used to be nervous to do that, but then I started to kind of approach networking, like just reaching out, wanting to chat, get to know people. So I reached out to James because he had that video trending and was on Shade Room and all this kind of stuff. It was the Converse, and the Converse picked it up. And I think it was before all the Converse stuff, but I reached out to him, and we both happened to be from the same community, in the Indian community. So we were like, oh, wow, like I haven't really seen people that look like us. And then we just had a cool conversation, didn't hear from him for a while. then he came back and he was like, hey, I'm starting this like record label. You know, we haven't recruited anybody. I remember you mentioning you cared about South Asian representation. Then it clicked. And he was like, you know, the whole thing with Converse was in the piece. It was just really cool because it was like very timely. Because like I said, I wasn't really sure for a while, like what was the next step, but I always knew I wanted to be part of something that helped my community like progress in music. So yeah, and then I joined, and my whole senior year or like second half was all Outer Voice, which was really cool. It was just like virtually on my laptop, you know, meetings, but getting to meet people like that I was inspired by in the industry. And you know, Converse definitely helping us launch it and helping mentor us was very cool. So that was a very crazy experience in college, being fresh out of college and in college, doing that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's amazing. I love how everything just like came together for y'all. I don't know how excited I am for you.
I love, it's cool. And I'm excited to talk to you because, you know, we chatted before and like, it's also, you're doing amazing things. I love the interview you did with them. And I was like, dang, this is super cool. Like people that are just really natural and like ask the coolest questions. It's fun. It's more of just like a conversation, like grabbing coffee or something.
Yeah, that's what I intend to have all these conversations be like, just a conversation. So I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah, so you told me about how you got connected to Outer Voice Records. But did you have any mentors or guidance in finding your place in the music industry?
Definitely, yeah. I like early on, actually, you know, when I started interning and learning, I definitely picked up things through some mentors or people that are willing to explain stuff to me and like go in depth. Sorry, there's a plane, I think, or helicopter. I don't know if you hear it, but so I basically like in Philly, it's very like, you know, there's certain people you might know of or hear of, and, you know, you might not meet them for a while, but I think you had him on. But Dilemma is definitely a big like a mentor of mine. I think it was you, or I think there's someone else interviewing.
Oh, yeah, Jenna interviewed Dilemma.
Okay, I think I met. Yeah, so Dilemma's been great. He's helped me, especially during the pandemic. So shout out to Dilemma. Just like kind of honing in on what I really enjoy, stepping out of my comfort zone, doing stuff for him with like the track meet program that he was doing, and then also with Crew, his artist development like kind of team. So that was my introduction, just like meeting people in the city and him introducing me to people, and like not just introducing me, but just like doing more things that I maybe was scared to do before. So him, Alexi is great too. Obviously with Finesse, Alexi was awesome. She's definitely like, you know, helped me just feel comfortable to like speak up for myself, ask for more, you know, just when it comes to representation. That's like a huge thing for her too. So I aligned with her on that. So yeah, there's a lot of people, just naming a few, but honestly, mentors are really important. And I think hopefully everybody gets a chance to either have one or somebody that they can reach out to when they're kind of not sure. But yeah, those are some, and there's a lot more I'd probably name, but just like people along the way that have helped me. It's like super grateful for those things, because it could feel kind of daunting being in the music industry without anyone that's like trustworthy or people you can just chat with about things you're nervous or scared to do. So
definitely, I love to hear that. It's great. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to your position as A&R, I know y'all are still like a startup and in the works of like building up this record label. But do you have any steps right now that you take to scout out new artists for the label?
Yeah, definitely. I did actually bring one more person on my like A&R team, so he's been helpful, and we're kind of just reaching out to people or just kind of doing a little bit of research, seeing who's out there. Because again, like being a South Asian record label, it's a cool chance to really see who in our community are doing, you know, creating amazing music, or who might need support or something like that. So definitely like checking on Instagram, or someone might send me, hey, like I came across this artist from Queens, or I came across this artist from here. They do rap or they R&B pop, and I usually will listen to them and kind of add them to, you know, to my like, just to, you know, just make sure I'm aware of who they are, kind of figure out the next steps to approach, you know, if that's the right artist for them, or for the team, or just kind of collaborative stuff like working with Jam in Philly, or just like reaching out to people just to see what they're up to. So definitely the approach right now with, like you said, being a startup, kind of have to approach it like, how do you expand your network? And also at the same time, like make sure there's artists that are joining the team or like being signed, but definitely not rushing it, making sure like everyone in our community knows that we exist and then knows that there's a place for them to come through, and like I'm there and the whole team's there to help. So yeah, it's a process, but it's fun. It's just like learning, like, and chatting with other A&Rs that I look up to, or other A&Rs who are doing stuff. I'm like, how do you do this? Or how do you approach this? Or like, what's a good way, like, it's just like cool to have community of people who, whether they're in the same position as me or like in a different position. That's how I've been just like learning the whole scouting process. So.
Cool.
Mhm.
So what qualities do you look for in people to collaborate with or to bring onto the label?
Good question. I would say definitely someone, like someone who's willing to collaborate or open to collaboration. Someone definitely like original, like has like a lot of music. I'm not saying a lot of music sounds the same, but just making sure that they have a taste that's like, yeah. I mean, we could claim that, but again, we'll claim it. A lot of music, at least today, might sound the same. So there should be something in that person that stands out and makes me want to like chat with them more or work with them. Like I get that feeling, like getting excited. I'm very like passionate. So if that feeling starts coming up, I'm like, okay, maybe like, chat with the artist, see how I can help. Whether it be an outer voice or just like in general, like wanting to work with artists. So yeah, I definitely look for people who are original or excited, passionate, just as much as me, to kind of like get to the place where, we can collaborate, work, and music would come out, or just like, especially with producers, engineers, like coming from that background, engineers and producers aren't spotlighted enough or aren't given the right credits, the points, the compensation. So like definitely something like an artist who's willing to do that for things. Like, a lot of factors that I'm learning are really important to me and like to the team. So there's just some things.
Yeah. Seems like you're learning a lot about yourself along this process. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, definitely. It's just kind of like every time I do something like, oh, like, dang, I didn't know that this is a way to do it. Or like, I'm sure for you too, when you're either just like interviewing someone and you find something out and like new, it's just kind of cool to be like, awesome. Like my life has just gotten like, I know another fact, or like I know another thing to add. So.
Oh yeah. I've definitely felt that in like every article. I mean, every interview I've done. I would always say to them, why are you yelling at me? You're like telling me something that I need to know about myself.
You're like, no, I didn't realize. Yeah, it's going to hit that way today. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like you're having conversations and then something comes up. Wow. Like a life-changing moment, but.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of touched on this, but how do you find connections in the industry? Like what's your go-to way to seek out other people to work with?
I guess it's different for everyone, but yeah, for me, I'd say I like to be as genuine as possible. Like be honest of like how much I'm like what I'm might be wanting. Like if it's an ask, be honest about that. Make sure there is a value that I'm providing to that person. That's something that I've learned from mentors and friends as well. Like in this industry, not everything should come free. Like just taking things. It's really important to give back, and even if it's someone who's way higher up in a position, there's usually something you can offer. Whether it just be like, just thanking them for their time, or kind of being very intentional with the time that you're like setting, like say if it's a call. So using my approaches, I'll do research and just make sure I'm not just like, reaching out to this person like cold and, not really getting a response, but kind of being like, oh, this person might have a mutual friend either on LinkedIn or just in general, and just might reference that. So it doesn't seem super out of the ordinary. And then I like to usually do during the pandemic, it was a lot of Zoom chats, but if someone's open to that, or be open to a regular call, or if they're not open, just being cool with that. But yeah, it's definitely my approach, and it's different for different situations. But during the pandemic, it definitely opened up a lot of opportunities for me, because I was just kind of DMing people or reaching out and being like, hey, love to learn more about this. And there were some great people that responded, and just we kind of chatted up a bit. And then I actually got to either meet them in person or like have a call with them, and then just keep in touch. Like that's the most important thing. Keep in touch, like every once in a while, not really use people for just like an ask. And if, building with people, I know everyone says that, but like, well, like that little thing or whatever, but it's true. If you really want to meet someone and they seem to be somebody who you can either invest into or they're investing into you, it's just kind of like making sure they know that. And there's a value provided all around. So that is sort of what it is for me, or at least what's worked a little bit in terms of networking. I'm still learning. I'd love to learn more about just like, going really into the music industry. People are networking, kind of working on different projects. That's it's an interesting place to be. Like when you meet so many people and your network gets like crazy, and how do you keep in touch with all those people, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely still navigating that as well.
Yeah. But it's cool. You get to have access, or just like to connect with people who are really dope, and then, get a chance to either like know them later, like work with them later on the road, or just kind of like have a friend in those people. So
Definitely. So as a South Asian woman of color, how has it been navigating this like new industry for you?
It's been really fun, but there's definitely comes with some of the challenges. Just like I mentioned earlier, either not seeing myself in spaces, or maybe just like having that confidence to know, like, I do know what I'm doing. I think a lot of women, or a lot of people deal with that. Just like a lot of women deal with that, like we have so much that we can offer, but sometimes either it's ourselves or society making us feel like we're not really contributing as much as we are, or just like, speaking up for ourselves. So, definitely being South Asian is definitely, it impacts like the way I see the world too. So there's obviously, like when you come into music, I'm influenced by the sounds of my culture, by the food, like everything impacts kind of how I approach things. So it's definitely awesome to be in this position now where there's a South Asian label I'm part of, South Asian record label I'm part of, and I'm able to contribute to something beyond just the music. It's just like creating like something that the community has needed. And then also just being somebody who's come through like, interning or assisting, or just like being around a lot of men. It's usually guys that are running things. It's important that we're like there, that I was there, and hopefully things like get better for, not just South Asian women, but more women of color. So yeah, it's been an interesting experience, but this industry is interesting. There's a lot of things going on. So
Definitely.
a lot of change that needs to be made. So it's cool that, we're all out here doing our thing. It's making a difference by just being here. So
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely see like both of us being game changers.
Yes.
A motto that I've been hearing a lot, especially with Finessed Media, and seeing y'all like you, just game changers. And I love that.
Yes, game changers. It's just shaking up the system, or shaking it up and reminding people that like, hey, no, we're here, and there's things need to be changed so we can get through even more. Like when people open the door, there needs to be more people that come through. It's not just like one and then shut. Like get more people in there, change the game, and like it's also about our skill sets. Like it's really important that people value us for what we can contribute, and not just, oh, now is the time where it's like popular to bring people, more women into spaces. Like, no, we're really good at what we do. Like bring me in, to a project. So
yeah. They'll see us eventually.
Yes. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your aspirations or goals that you have that you'd like to achieve while at Outer Voice Records?
A good one. I think definitely for me at least, help us establish as like as the South Asian record label here in the US, just making sure people are aware of what we're doing. And it's not just like more of an awareness, like, oh, we can bring in artists and really help support them. Like my goal is definitely to bring in, more women into the team, especially artists or producers, and help them kind of either launch their careers or just like curate their projects and help them really get into this like mainstream spaces. Because when it comes to mainstream music, that's usually where people are chatting the most about like who's out there, what representation looks like. So hopefully the conversation moving forward is like, we're all just out here and there's opportunities for us to get those, rooms, or to get, on those playlists, or get into the, like there's sometimes they might be gate kept in some ways. Like, so hopefully with Outer Voice being able to kind of cut through, help an artist cut through, that's definitely a goal of mine. So that's more on the Outer Voice side. And also just getting really better, I guess, honestly, at the craft, and getting, like, I think all of us would want that. For me, is just like, I'm excited to really understand how to work in that capacity and like support artists and producers. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. So I know we just started with Outer Voice Records and Gym in Philly, But have you had any favorite projects that you've worked on, or can you tell me about anything that's coming up possibly?
Just in general, or with Outer Voice, you were saying?
In general, favorite projects you've worked
on. I'm working with an artist out in LA. She's kind of like doing like more experimental sounds. I've been doing some production for that, so hopefully that would come out soon. And I've just been learning as much as I can, like shadowing either engineers or just like making sure I'm in rooms where I can just observe and learn. So hopefully either those projects that I'm like part of sort of will come out. But yeah, nothing specifically coming out. And with Jam in Philly too, on the other side, definitely working with them right now and writing like songs and producing them. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And just also, looking for more ways to work and to like meet more people like you and just like create that community. It's really important. So those are some things coming up. I think there's also something I'm doing with Outer Voice that we'll probably announce soon, but that's kind of like a little teaser, something really nice. So hopefully once we get all of that sorted and the announcement comes out, it'll be very cool. So
looking forward to it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is just like an overall question. What is something that you hope to achieve within the music industry in general in the future?
These questions always stop me because like I'm a very like, I might have like all these different things I want to do. Yeah. I mean, if it's more of a general thing, I definitely just want to make an impact like on the way people are working with creatives. I think coming through it, being a creative or being someone who like likes to create music, I think I've seen the sides or heard of the sides of like where the management A&Rs might be the ones that are like hindering the process. So for me, like I guess the impact, like I really want to work. If I was going to take on that quote unquote A&R title, I know it's just more of a title. It's like, if you're producing, like executive producing or whatever it is, just making sure like the creative is centered. And that's kind of that impact I want to do. I thought if that was the answer of just general kind of contribution, being someone like that, that's bringing as many people, like make sure the spaces are diversified in terms of the way people are processing things, who's in the room. And I think if I can get to that place where I'm making those calls, that's something I've always wanted to do, just like create those spaces I never saw. So,
Okay, boss lady.
Okay. Yes. We got to do it. If no one else will, I think we got to do it. So I think I've talked to you before, like, there's no one else doing it. Like the only option is ourselves. So hopefully things start changing and we're able to just do our thing, so.
We're speaking it into existence.
Yes. I'm big on the manifest. I used to be like very skeptical, but now I'm just, the more you manifest it, the more you talk about it, it makes it feel more like it's tangible. So yeah.
I definitely see that. Yeah. So that's my favorite question. What is one thing that you'd like to change about the music industry?
I guess I kind of touched on the last question, but I think that whole thing about the approach with the creatives, really centering them, but also like that it doesn't have to be super like gate kept. I think I used that word before, but like the people can feel like they can contribute in some kind of way. And like, you don't have to be like the biggest, charted. Obviously everyone's, a lot of artists' goals or creatives' goals to be like the top charting artist, be the best. But, that just like in this industry, hopefully people are like, remember that it's all about the passion for the music and hopefully that and just making sure there's more people in the spaces that historically have been able to be there, that they can contribute and their voices are heard in especially studios or rooms where like they might be dominated by like white men, honestly. Hopefully those things change because music, like women create dope music, like if you think about it in the space, like amazing music, there's amazing producers, and hopefully people know about those names. Like for me, it took me a long time. I was researching and finding out like who exists that I could see myself in. So hopefully now there's so many more people that like young girls can look up to and be like, oh shoot, like she's doing what I want to do. I can follow that path a little bit, or I can see that I can go there. So those are some changes I want to see. There's so many things I think, but it's a great, like in the music industries, it's great, but it's also whatever people want it to be for themselves. Like if it's just making music in their room, that's amazing. And it's like, you're doing your thing and it's like something you care about. Or if you want to keep going as a professional, that's also cool. But yeah, so those are kind of my hopes in the music industry, that it's doesn't like super get cut off to the part of like people aren't as passionate about it. Like people remember that. We do it for the love of music. So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you foresee any challenges that you might have in your own career as an engineer, producer, or even working with other voice records?
Yeah, I'm definitely challenges will come up. I'm sure it's just like the more you get into a role, the more responsibilities you have to take on that maybe you didn't have before. There's definitely some challenges, and also bringing in more artists for Outer Voice for me. It's something I'm really excited about. But it's also like once you bring in more artists, there's so much more responsibility to kind of make sure the projects and that artist will like come together. So definitely that, and sometimes like we ourselves can hinder, our own ability, like ourselves from kind of doing the things that might make us scared or might like be like more of like pushing us out of our comfort zone. So I'm sure those will be challenges where I just have to like just go for it. People just say like, the best way is just start. So those are definitely some challenges that will come up. But I'm always excited to learn. I'm a big just like sponge, just like taking it in. So once you learn those things and you apply them, it's just the coolest thing. So I sound super nerdy, but like,
Yeah, you sound very professional. Yeah. So in your own career, do you have any goals that you like to meet or any aspirations, anyone you want to collaborate with in the future as an engineer?
Like specific people or just like, I think I really just want to like produce. Like, this is like more of like a personal thing, but really, really get into production and engineering. I think I for a while I was kind of just trying different things. But I really want to feel comfortable where I can work with an artist and put together a project, whether it be as a producer or an A&R. But that's a goal of mine. It's like either EPing a project, like executive producing a project, or like doing some like serious engineer production work on something. As those are things I've always wanted to do. I think for a while I was just kind of like I was saying earlier, learning. I really want to actually like, apply that and do exactly what I've been wanting to do. So now I'm getting a chance to do that. So it's pretty cool.
Good.
Yeah.
And my last question for you is, do you have any advice for aspiring engineers, A&Rs, music business professionals?
I'd say just like, a lot of people say this to me, like keep going, because there's definitely gonna be moments where like for me too, like all the time, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if it's worth it. So if it's something you're really passionate about and like it's going to be difficult, but I think a lot of people say that too. They're like, oh, keep going. It's very hard, especially when it comes to like unpaid internships or things where like it's very hard because only a certain amount of people could do them. Like, I was grateful I was able to do one of those at a certain time, and there might have been someone who couldn't. So hopefully there's ways for people. Well, this also goes back to the changes in industry, but also like hopefully to give advice to people that they get a chance. Just take that risk if there's an opportunity to go into something, or like reach out to somebody. Like, don't be afraid to reach out, because most likely someone will be willing to help or be interested in hearing more about your journey. So those are definitely things I'd say. And just like, don't rush yourself, because that's a lesson I'm learning myself. Don't rush yourself. Like, I think us being like young industry professionals, just like tend to being like, oh, you see the person next to you and they might be the same age as you and they're like Grammy nominated, or they're working with your favorite artist, but everyone's at their own pace. So like, that's something literally I'm learning right now. So that the advice is like, hopefully people like kind of apply that to their own life. It's just like, don't rush. Make sure that you're just like doing as much as you can, but also like taking care of yourself, things like that. So
awesome. That's so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
I feel like I was like ranting, but I always, whenever people ask me questions, I always like multiple answers. So I'm like, I hope there was something in there that was useful, but
that was the artist in you coming out. I feel like I feel every creative like can speak until time's end,
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's so good. Got what you needed out. So I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here. And yeah, it's cool to speak on stuff that I'm passionate about. So.
Beautiful.